the betrayal of its people by its rulers, a man who decides to try to reverse that decline, the sacrifices that he endures in pursuit of that, finally his arrest with directions to throw him in jail for hundreds of years. A trained eye can look at that and see virtually all of America's history, the old stock, its greatness, its decadence, its cycle, its place in the cyclical nature of history, declining empires, totalitarianism, the struggle of man against his enemies, those who threaten what he loves. All of that really is contained in that image. What's the line from Lenin? Like, there are
Can you calm down, J.K. Rowling? He actually sounds like one of those mega losers that go to like art museums and look at like the splotch on like a white board and are like, I can see pain. I look and I can feel a heartbeat of a child lost in a meadow. I can feel the air of a butterfly. You know who we haven't checked in on in quite a while? Good old Mr. John Doyle. John Soyle, as I have called him before. What has he been up to? Well, he posted a video about a month ago. If you remember, he doesn't post videos very often. So his most recent video was a month ago, and it's actually about the Donald Trump mugshot, the most significant photograph in all of history. Yeah, that's the real title. I wish I was kidding. Take it away, Doily boy.
On Thursday, President Donald Trump arrived at Fulton County Jail to be arrested and booked on 13 felony counts for what is being described as an alleged scheme to overturn the results of the safest and most secure presidential election in history in the state of Georgia. And this will actually be the fourth time this year where he's turned himself in to be met with charges by state and federal officials.
Was that like supposed to be sarcastic? That he was like, haha, you said it was the safest election, but also Trump tried to interfere? It was the safest election in spite of Trump.
But this time it's a little different because they took his mugshot. Everybody else was smart enough to not do that, to make sure that that was not done, because ostensibly they understood the power that that image would have. But for some reason, I don't know why, Fani Willis was not smart enough to understand this. Perhaps she thought it would be a powerful demoralizing agent, another humiliation ritual, nagging in its ultimate form. That's understandable, but you look and already we're like,
I'm surprised he didn't blame it on the fact that she was like a woman or something.
A day or so into the fallout from the release of this image, and already people are angry, they're unified. The energy really does seem to have shifted in a way that I haven't felt for a very long time, and it's because of that image. And so we really do have to thank God for how stupid our enemies are, because they could have done this to Trump 100 more times with no mugshot. And Americans would have gotten marginally more upset and indignant, significantly more indifference, aloof, whatever. But they've instead chosen to provide us with really what is the most significant photograph ever taken in the history of the world. Wow. Like, never has there been more at stake in a single photograph. And we will discuss exactly what that is, along with a lot of other important points, which I don't expect anybody else to cover, pertaining to both the near and distant future. Very important, exciting times. Do stay tuned. Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Heck Off Commie. Let me just review my notes here briefly before we get started.
No.
Okay, MAGA hat status on, Rubicon status crossed, Patriot status in control,
herpes positive,
mass libtard suicide status imminent. You know, in true Trump fashion, I really do have to give myself some credit here. I was saying 3 years ago that these things would happen, and then since I've predicted the continued persecution, the indictments, the arrests, that the mugshot would end up being taken and that it would become the most significant photograph in history, in addition to an immediate and great fundraising tool for President Trump.
Yeah.
But I said that all we need...
I love that he keeps calling it the most significant photograph in history. You think the Trump mugshot is more significant than this photograph? Like, this is simping on steroids, I'm not gonna lie. This is what happens when you are like a massive simp. He just doesn't know where to put his simp energy because he kind of thinks women is bad. He's sort of in his not quite gay yet, but still hates women phase. So he has to take this simpy energy he has and place it somewhere else. There's no picture that gets my jimmies all ruffled up than that picture of Big Daddy Trump.
We just had to get lucky once. Eventually, one of these people would be so prideful, so resentful, so filled with bloodlust that they would commission this mugshot because their judgment had been clouded such that they believed that it would be, you know, like a humiliation, demoralizing tool against Trump and his voters. But of course, the opposite has happened. And this is sort of the problem with being so ahead of the curve all the time. We've covered all of this already on so many occasions that when it finally comes true, I feel like I'm just repeating myself, but it's okay. I don't mind. But it is true that this is the most significant photo that's ever been taken. I don't know if I would go as far as to say it's the most significant image ever, but in the time since we've had photography, It's definitely the most significant picture that's ever been taken, because you think about everything that's conveyed by that picture, everything that's at stake. You're talking about a truly like larger than life cultural figure, wildly successful businessman, virtually unchanging attitudes towards politics in all his years being a public figure. Yeah, when he actually started running, he has to come out and give a position on XYZ.
He was a registered Democrat for a little bit. He was like chill with Hillary and everything also. Why do you have to lie? You could just be like, yeah, he's been inconsistent, but I think that he has landed himself on the correct side of history. Why couldn't you have gone that route? Why do you have to just lie and be like, he's been very consistent throughout his entire life. Since the minute he was birthed, his first words were, build the wall.
Okay, you have to play ball, but you go back 35 years, you listen to his interviews. He's basically saying that he wants the country to stop getting ripped off, he wants criminals to be put in jail, and he wants to put America first, but he doesn't want to run, but he will if nobody else fixes it. Okay, so he runs, somehow he wins, he takes out the Bush political dynasty, the Clinton political dynasty, takes de jure control of the Republican Party. Now gas goes under $2 a gallon, we're energy independent, we're not starting new wars, we're bringing jobs back, we're cutting immigration, there seems to be a sense of national pride, people are making more money, interest rates are at 3% or less.
So he's invoking the economy a ton right here. All of which was because of Obama and outside forces that really had nothing to do with the president at all. This comes from the Joint Economic Committee. And it's on whether or not Trump created or inherited the strong economy. By the end of the Obama administration, the economy had experienced 76 consecutive months of job growth. Since Trump became president, the streak has been extended to 109 consecutive months. Great. Average monthly job growth. During the last 33 months of the Obama administration, non-farm job growth averaged 224,000 per month. During the first 33 months of the Trump administration, the average was 34,000 jobs per month. Income during the last 2 years of the Obama administration, the annual median household income increased $4,800. This is 3 times more than the $1,400 increase during the first 2 years of the Trump administration. Okay, here's what I wanted to read about the tax cuts as well. The 2017 tax cuts likely added some fuel to the already hot economy because they increased corporate profits and gave individuals more money to spend. However, many economists say that the, quote, sugar high from the tax cuts is wearing off. In fact, business investment has declined for 2 consecutive quarters, and a recent analysis by the New York Times found no relationship between the size of the tax cut companies and industries received and their investments. In the long term, the $1.9 trillion in new federal debt likely will weigh down the economy. And then Trump's trade war also really screwed the economy as well. American businesses and consumers, not foreigners, pay tariffs. Although the tariffs hurt China by reducing demand for more Chinese goods, they also hurt American businesses that pay the tariffs, American consumers who buy the higher priced products, American farmers who are hit with the reciprocal tariffs, and the economy, which is weighed down by the interaction with these forces. One analysis finds that the trade war with China has already cost 300,000 American jobs, and the number could rise to 450,000 by the end of the year. So Trump by no means destroyed the economy. Some of the things he did were still good for the economy. Let's not kid ourselves here. But at the end of the day, acting as though Donald Trump is just the big best president because of the economy, when the economy was already doing fine before Trump. You can look at the unemployment rate. It was already going nicely and steadily down well before Trump took office. But then again, when you're a simp, you're kind of blinded. You know, you got the rosy glasses on.
And it's like we couldn't have that. And so our political system declares war on him. They fortify the election. We all saw it happen. I will never forget that, watching the results come in for the rest of my life. He's taken Florida. He's got Ohio already. New York Times odds, 80% Trump wins. And for the rest of my life, I will never forget, hey, they stopped counting in Georgia. They're going to bed. They're going to figure it out tomorrow. Like, you just knew at that point that it was going to happen. Now they brag about it. Now they think it's funny. And they're putting people in jail for asking questions about that, including Donald Trump. So that's the story told.
Dude, what a loser. Oh my God. Now they're bragging about it. I'll never forget. I lose sleep at night. I have had to journal so aggressively for so long.
That's the story told in this picture. You take the greatest nation in history, you have its decline.
Who's going to jail for asking questions? Well, you know what? If you want to get real semantic, Trump did get in trouble for asking questions, but in his case, it was asking someone else to find him the amount of votes he needed to win Georgia. He was trying to interfere with the election, Doyle. You think there was election interference. You're willing to believe it when it comes to the Democrats doing it. You can't fathom Trump doing it. Why can't you just look around and maybe at least he could even take the approach of like, anyone who has power probably wants to keep power, so they might try to take certain steps to stay in power. Sometimes they might take dishonest steps. He could go that direction even if he wanted to. Now, I don't think the Democrats did election interference or something, but at the end of the day, there are certainly more balanced approaches that could be taken. But again, we're watching John Doyle. I'm trying to give you a balanced approach. This guy's trying to just spread digital AIDS.
The betrayal of its people by its rulers, a man who decides to try to reverse that decline, the sacrifices that he endures in pursuit of that, finally his arrest with directions to throw him in jail for hundreds of years. A trained eye can look at that and see virtually all of America's history, the old stock, its greatness, its decadence, its cycle, its place in the cyclical nature of history, declining empires, totalitarianism, the struggle of man against his enemies, those who threaten what he loves. All of that really is contained in that image. What's the line from Lenin? Like there are
Can you calm down, J.K. Rowling? He actually sounds like one of those mega losers that go to like art museums and look at like the splotch on like a white board and are like, I can see pain. I look and I can feel a heartbeat of a child lost in a meadow. I can feel the air of a butterfly. Dude, it's a mugshot of Donald Trump. Just admit that you like to jerk your willy to this guy and your video could be so much shorter. Hunter calling out a guy for being passionate about politics? No, I'm not calling anyone out for being passionate about politics. I'm calling people out for being pretentiously corny when looking at a mugshot and going, I think that the trained eye can see the struggle of mankind, empires falling, empires being rebuilt by the white man. That's what I'm making fun of. It's not his passion, it's the fact that he's passionately stupid.
Contained in that image. What's the line from Lenin? Like there are decades where nothing happens and there are weeks where decades happen. There are pictures worth 1,000 words, and there are pictures worth there are pictures worth 1,000 books. How about that? The picture is worth 1,000 books. Shut up. Maybe the average
What happened to your editor?
Shut up. Maybe the average person doesn't read that deeply into it, but it does resonate with people for that reason. Like
Okay, so he has a bit of self-awareness. That's good.
all understand intuitively what it means. And I think the left is starting to understand that as well, and that they shouldn't have had this picture taken, because now they're writing these think pieces about it desperately, saying that, well, it was supposed to be an exercise in humility, but Trump made it into a threat because he looks, what, displeased? Like, did you want to look sad? You want him to look...
One random blog post, guys. Oh, man. The left. At it again.
Defeated. This is the problem with gynocracy and matriarchy. They literally think that they can basically like nag you into submission. They don't understand willpower. They don't understand fortitude or indifference. If they keep nagging you, you will eventually buckle. And of course, it can't be, well, he actually has legitimate grievances. He's rightfully angry. It has to be that his fragile male ego is just doubling down because he can't admit that he's wrong. And now he's trying to threaten us to get what he wants.
It doesn't have to be that. It's just that's what the evidence suggests it is. We have evidence that the election wasn't rigged. Donald Trump hates to lose. Even Donald Trump's own people, AG Barr, was it? Said that the election was not stolen, there was no interference in the election, and even if there was, it wouldn't have been enough to actually sway an entire national election. Now, I remember Republicans talking about how Trump is going to surround himself with the best people. I remember Trump himself saying that he's going to surround himself with the best people, dude. They're the experts and they're going to lead him. They're going to lead him through the valley of the shadow of death. Well, here's one of Trump's smart people saying there was no election interference. I know for you it's like, does this make my tummy hurt? Does this make my pee-pee feel itchy? And that's kind of how you determine whether or not something is logical or whether or not it's something that you want to do or advocate for. But for many people who have a prefrontal cortex, we are able to reason our way through this and determine that, well, Trump has a long history of having a big ego, loving to win. There's no evidence that he won, and he continues to claim that he won anyway. So yeah, at that point I would ask you, what else is it, chump?
They are so misaligned with reality and narcissistic. They can't comprehend the idea that they are incorrect. You take any narrative from the left, you just blur it a little bit. It sounds identical to women describing their past relationships.
This is so ironic. First of all, before we get into him ranting about women, it's really ironic he says this when it's Trump who cannot grip reality that he is wrong.
We're arresting you. Stand here, look at the camera. Fine. Oh my gosh, you're like threatening me right now? Oh my gosh, you're like threatening me right now? You're being really manipulative. Why can't you admit that you're wrong just for once in your life? I think that we're so used to admitting defeat.
You can tell he's never been in a relationship also because his perception of women is like primarily based on how sitcoms depict dysfunctional relationships and whatever. Like, you can tell he's never really been in a relationship, a long-term one or a successful one at least, because no one would talk about women or think that that's just how women are if they actually had any experience dating women.
Over everything, that when we start to actually get perceived victories, we get really unnecessarily skeptical about it. But these people aren't smart. They don't understand how warfare works. At the top, maybe, sure. But the people who made the decision to have this picture taken, people like Fani Willis, they are so used to being in power that they take it for granted, you know, the ability to defer to the science, the experts, the consensus, whatever. They really think that they should be able to basically nag you into non-existence. Like they just point at you, hey, he's bad, and then you just cease to exist. They don't understand honor. They only understand nagging.
It's so funny that he's trying to say it's the other side that can't grasp if they're wrong, but yet he cannot fathom that Trump could have done anything wrong. It must be this big, long tangent that he's giving about how they don't understand that us Republicans under war refuse to buckle under the pressure of the Democratic boot. Like, he's just rambling.
They just haven't nagged you enough. But also this whole nominal exercise in humility, that's just them getting off to this idea of like equality under the law, pretending that it's actually really good because it shows that we're all equal under the law and even the president will be held accountable. But obviously that's not true, because if it were, then this could have happened to anyone. They would have done this to George Bush if he'd been trying to realign our political establishment, and there's plenty of subject matter there.
What you're saying right now is, why haven't they done it before? Because no other president did what Trump did. It's unprecedented. Trump's behavior and the response. The response is unprecedented because Trump's behavior is wild, dude. I can't believe he would bring this up as some kind of a gotcha when it literally just is a fat L for Trump.
We could have deported every single illegal immigrant under the guise of, oh, we have to protect against potential terrorists. We could have built the border wall. We could have done anything we wanted. And his approval rating would have floored at like 80%. Perhaps the greatest traitor currently living to the American public. So because of that, he gets to hang out with everybody, right? He's in the club. Whereas if you give me a few hours of your time and an internet connection, I can construct a stronger case against pretty much any establishment politician, Republican or Democrat, whoever, than any of the counts they've levied against Trump. Because it's all out in the open. It's all.
He's leaving out a really important factor. The only way he would be able to successfully construct something better and actually convince anybody would be if the person he was trying to convince first took quite a lot of Percocet.
Publicly available, but nobody does anything about it, because that's how the game is played. You go along with the agenda, you make your money on the side, do whatever else you're into on the side, but don't step out of line. And so anybody who supports or helps Trump in pretty much any capacity, it happens to them too. Think about all the other people who have faced.
No, they were all actually involved in certain election interference. They all did something wrong. He's just lying. He's flashing it and then just giving us a fake reason. This is what denial looks like, by the way. I've never seen simping this bad.
Criminal penalties for J6. But not the BLM riots, not Chaz, Antifa, similar events in D.C.
If you look at how many people were apprehended by the police, how many people were arrested by the police for violence, there were quite a lot of them. This is pretty much just a false narrative that it's just, oh, everybody ran around and committed violence or looted and rioted or whatever, and then the cops just didn't care. That's not true at all. There were thousands of people that were arrested.
Literally state capitals all throughout the country. Nobody cares. It's not hypocrisy. It's not a double standard, because we're not equal. The line that's being drawn isn't whether you've got membership in this party or that party. The line that's drawn is whether you are willing to go along with the regularly scheduled programming or if you are not. And when you view things through that lens, then it's all perfectly clear. It's all aligned. There's no incongruencies, no double standards. It all adds up perfectly. Nice round number. People who aren't a threat can pretty much do whatever they want, and people who are a threat will be persecuted no matter what they do. Well, no one's saying that Trump is going to save the world. I've never said that. No one's saying that it's over when Trump wins. However, it's still important because it happens to be true that Donald Trump does provide an opportunity to put this country on a better trajectory than it has right now. And especially when that's compared to wherever else we could be going in the future. I know a lot of people in his circle. I've spoken to them. They're brilliant and they are killers and they want revenge. And you want to see what your post-Trump GOP is going to look like? You go watch the debate from the other night, which nobody's talking about, by the way. The same way that conservatism has been largely unable to define itself in practice apart from leftism because of its power, the GOP can't define itself apart from Donald Trump. No matter how hard they try, no matter what they do, Donald Trump is still in control. They can have their cute little...
Yeah, I mean, it's really what happens when you have a cult. When you have somebody like Trump that actually behaves similarly to how many cult leaders will behave. Everything else is fake news. You can only get the truth from me. Every part of the establishment is wrong and lying. You can't trust the system. You can only trust me. This is the behavior of somebody who is leading a cult. It's that type of a mindset, absolutely.
Consequently, we have no standing on our own. Think about it. How would you define the right if not for transsexuals behaving in the ways that they do? If I didn't have to hear every day about Dylan Mulvaney and Bud Light and Disney and Hunter Biden and whatever else is the outrage of the day, I wouldn't know what the right is because it has no self-concept. There's no real vision, no way forward, nothing that can independently exist. We're not a right wing. We're just this sort of like counter-leftism. And I'm not saying
he's actually kind of right in many ways as far as the right wing has become that in some ways. Doyle recognizes it. I can recognize it. While that's happening, that's when you need to try to get those people to be on your side and to agree with you rather than going down the further right fascist side. Because it's true. Republicans don't really have anything. They don't really have anything. They don't have policies that they're advocating for. So much of the Republican platform is just culture war nonsense. It's just Mr. Potato Head and pronouns and Bud Light, like what Doyle said. He's right. That is what the right has become in so many ways. The thing is, though, is by recognizing that, we on the left can use that for our advantage. There are some people on the right that are realizing that, and they're starting to become disaffected. And before they go down the path with John Doyle, maybe, just maybe, someone else can get there first and change their mind.